opposition leaders are demanding answers, and those potentially embarrassing images of Zelensky are now part of a story that's gaining worldwide attention.
How did you up this bad? Liberals. Oh my God. It's so bad. This is on the international stage now, you know? Like, that this gives all of the detractors ammunition that they need or want to be able to be like, oh, we told you that you're aligning with the Nazis. And most times you can be like, no, that's a ridiculous statement. And I'm not just defending this based on the fact that Zelensky himself is Jewish. I'm saying that if you look at the polling, if you look at how the polling goes in Ukraine, the actual Nazi or fascist party gets less than 2%. Like, they're not a dominant force. Every single country in the world has a Nazi problem. Canada has a massive Nazi problem, as you're learning a little bit more about now. This is a problem internationally, okay? Every single country seems to have quite a few Nazis among us, so that's a problem. But when you do like this, oh, look, you just gave them all the ammunition they needed, because this one is so bad. So, as you know, President Zelensky of Ukraine is doing, once again, a tour of various countries who are supporting him in his endeavors to stop Vladimir Putin and his illegal invasion. I'm going to start this segment by saying, fuck Vladimir Putin, fuck illegal invasions of sovereign nations, and fuck anyone who's trying to say that this, in fact, is just simply a military operation where they're trying to regain territory in Crimea. Actually, technically, it belongs to, Russia. No, fuck all that noise. Also, fuck the noise of people who constantly try to, and this is some unfortunate people on the left, reframe the entire thing as, well, this is actually the United States that forced Putin's hand. Had the United States and NATO not expanded in the way they did, Putin never would have seen fit to do this. So this is truly the United States' fault at the end of the day. It's like foreign countries can operate with autonomy, and in this case, yes, Vladimir Putin is exerting his autonomy to invade a sovereign nation and try to annex parts of it illegally. That's what's happening. So here's what happened. Zelensky comes to Parliament in Canada and comes, obviously, to talk about the ongoing war effort of which Canada is directly supporting. We have given Ukraine millions of dollars, and we have just pledged to give them another series of hundreds of millions of dollars in aid. And this is obviously a very controversial thing because Canada, as you may not know, has a lot of crises going on. We have a homeless crisis, we have a housing crisis, and we have a food crisis. We have an inflation crisis as well. We have a really big problem with food insecurity. 1 in 4 Canadians is experiencing it, apparently. We have a very big problem with housing. Our housing crisis is the worst in the world right now by ratio of, how much the property values are versus what people are able to afford. If you want to buy a house in Vancouver, for example, you're looking at about $1.8 to $2 million for a detached home in this city, at which point you'll probably need a easy $400,000 to $500,000 just lying around in a bank account to get that down payment to be able to secure a mortgage payment. And if you do get that mortgage payment, which will be probably for $1.5 million, you're going to need a very, very high dual income with you and your wife. We're looking at, $200,000 to $300,000 combined income to buy a house. So needless to say, a lot of young people, millennials, I guess, aren't young. I'm not young, but we're all in a bit of a bind, a bit of a pickle when it comes to this. So there's a lot of people saying, well, why are we putting hundreds of millions of dollars into other, foreign wars while we have so many domestic problems at home? That's the conversation that's going on right now. In the midst of all this, we've got Zelensky. Zelensky gave a speech. And then things got real fucked. And this is a monstrously huge fuck up of the Liberals. The Liberal Party of Canada has just fucked up so badly that they have given internationally, because this is now world news, it is headlines in every fucking, from Al Jazeera all the way over to DW, fucking The Guardian, you name it, headline, top story, Canada honors SS soldier. A soldier who fought in the SS. Yes, that SS. And I'll give you a quick little view.
Political and diplomatic fallout this morning from a moment Friday in the House of Commons during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Ottawa.
Is the NDP screwed? I'm going to get into the NDP and what they did afterwards and what's happening now.
Ottawa. The Speaker of the House is this morning apologizing for honoring a Ukrainian man who fought in a Nazi unit during the Second World War.
Now, here's how this played out. This was not only a full standing ovation, meaning every single political party in Canada stood and clapped, but right afterwards, there was some shaming that went on because Pierre, the leader of the Conservative Party, he was just doing kind of like, but not like, just, right? the liberals started shaming him right away, being like, how dare you not applaud with like any kind of like excitement for an actual war hero. Disgusting.
That is the moment. 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka rising to acknowledge Speaker Anthony Rota. Rota had called him a Ukrainian hero and a Canadian hero. As you can see, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky joined Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and everyone else in the Commons in a standing ovation. It capped
This looks so fucking bad. I say this as someone who directly supports fucking the Ukrainian efforts to try and repel the invasion of Russia, but holy fuck, what have you done? This is the biggest gift to every detractor, every fucking person. Have you seen the ratios going on? Have you seen the online? Every fucking right-winger now is laughing their asses off. They're all like, lol, you fucking literally honored an SS soldier. Because they did! They did! Like, you know what's fucked up about this story? The internet caught on to this so fast, like razor speed, razor sharpness. I saw immediately a whole bunch of people pull up, took 2 seconds, Google, put in the name, put in his service, look it up. Oh, hey, by the by, that soldier who was just honored, you know, by everyone, not just like one political party. This is a standing ovation of all of Canadian Parliament with Zelensky in tow. That guy fought for the Nazis. That guy was in the fucking SS. Yeah. And so immediately after the internet found that out and just had a time with it, I was like, let's see what the timeline's gonna be on the rest of the media catching up. Will this be one of those stories that just gets brushed under? Do people just simply forget about it? No, because immediately Jewish organizations, because some of you may know, and this is a shout out to, you know, all of our Jewish brothers, sisters, and non-binary individuals and comrades, you know, a lot of love for Jewish people. They were quick to point out that this motherfucker fought in the SS and demanded an apology because, yeah, I think so. And then was there an apology immediately made? No, there was a whole bunch of people, including Chrystia Freeland right here and Justin Trudeau, who made posts about Yom Kippur and saying, you know, solidarity with all of our, you know, Jewish brothers and sisters at this time. We deeply respect the Jewish faith and religion, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Jewish organizations are coming out being like, yeah, that dude fought with the Nazis. Y'all are cheering an actual fucking SS soldier here.
Zelensky's speech and appearance Friday. But there has been mounting outrage throughout the weekend as Hunka's past became more widely known. Prominent Jewish organizations are voicing their anger. Opposition leaders are demanding answers, and those potentially embarrassing images of Zelensky are now part of a story that's gaining worldwide attention.
How did you fuck up this bad? Liberals. Oh my God. It's so bad. This is on the international stage now, you know? Like, that this gives all of the fucking detractors ammunition that they need or want to be able to be like, oh, we told you that you're aligning with the Nazis. And most times you can be like, no, that's a ridiculous statement. And I'm not just defending this based on the fact that Zelensky himself is Jewish. I'm saying that if you look at the polling, if you look at how the polling goes in Ukraine, the actual Nazi or fascist party gets less than 2%. Like, they're not a dominant force. Every single country in the world has a Nazi problem. Canada has a massive Nazi problem, as you're learning a little bit more about now. This is a problem internationally, okay? Every single country seems to have quite a few fucking Nazis among us, so that's a problem. But when you do shit like this, oh, look, you just gave them all the ammunition they needed, because this one is so fucking bad.
Janice McGregor is in Ottawa looking into the repercussions from this, and the question key to many is who is going to be held accountable, Janice?
That's absolutely what we're watching today, Heather. It'll be interesting to see if Anthony Rota himself takes the Speaker's chair, has anything to say about this as the day goes on. Normally, I think we would expect him at least.
Yeah, I agree. It does actually really suck for Zelensky, because Zelensky, in good faith, comes there to give a speech and talk. And then again, in good faith, is being told the Speaker of the House came forward to say, at this moment, we would now like to call your attention to honor this soldier who fought valiantly against Soviet occupation of Ukraine. And then he stands up, he gave some waves, you know, and then everyone was just like, wow, yes, fuck yeah, hell yeah, fuck yeah, boom. And then afterwards, like, within a day, all of the internet was suddenly like, brrr, boom, y'all, that dude was in the motherfucking SS.
To be there for question period, if not during debate earlier in the day. As Anthony Rota introduced this veteran on Friday, he said he, quote, fought for Ukrainian independence against the Russians. But when you frame it like that, you fail to acknowledge that the unit he volunteered to join, this was not a conscript unit.
That's the other part. He volunteered to join the SS. He volunteered to be an SS soldier. Okay?
This was a unit of volunteers.
It's absolutely indefensible. It's like there is no, like, how did none of you look into this? And then to frame it in such a way, just like hoping this one would just slide, I was just like, well, we'd also like to honor this valiant Ukrainian soldier who fought to liberate Ukraine from Soviet occupation during World War II. And then just on its surface, you're like, this is very complicated. This could be bad.
Was on the same side as the Nazis as atrocities unfolded in Eastern Europe late in the war. The Speaker has taken responsibility for his presence in that part of the.
So what happens immediately after, you know, all these organizations start speaking out and saying this is horrifying, how the fuck could this happen? How could this happen at such a scale? This is not only a national embarrassment, but this is actually a global problem now because you have directly associated Zelensky with this SS soldier. Thanks, Canada. Great job there. Good doing the hard work, because no one apparently in the government of Canada has Google or has access to Google or knows how to Google, or there's not a single, like, for the love of fucking God, please hire anyone, an intern who is of like Zoomer status, who understands how the internet works, who can tell you, all right, so who are you guys going to be honoring? Okay, cool, just give me 2 seconds. And then they could come back and be like, so yeah, so I use this really advanced technology we have called AltaVista, and while looking on it, I asked Jeeves, and apparently this guy is not on the up and up. He was actually fighting for the Nazis in the SS, and he volunteered to join that division. That it's really fucking bad if you do this and you get a standing ovation. Holy shit.
Gallery saying that he had invited him as his guest, and in a statement apologizing for having done that.
So here's the statement.
Is that
now, he's not stepping down. And so some people have written to me being like, what should happen here? I would say at the least, the bare minimum at this point is, yes, the Speaker of the House of Commons should step down. What does the Speaker of the House of Commons do in Canada? Is it the same as the Speaker of the House and other kind of parliamentary structures? It is. After all, we have modeled ours after the British system, and they are supposed to be not only the person who maintains order and decorum within the House, and of course you've seen the amazing British dude who used to do it, order, order. Well, Anthony Ross is not nearly interesting. He's Canadian in every way, shape, or form, just boring and bland, and just basically, you know, what you'd expect of a certain person trying to constantly have decorum. And honestly, he's also been kind of shit in terms of whenever Indigenous people speak out in Parliament and talk about atrocities and crimes against Indigenous people. Usually, if someone else speaks out, it's like, there's too much rabble, he'll silence everybody. Like, I'm not a monstrous huge fan of the dude. Either way, this is such a monumental fuck up that if you are taking personal responsibility for it, you need to resign. You need to, if nothing else, for the benefit of, I would say, the war effort at this point. But he says, I've subsequently become aware. Subsequently. Oopsie. I've subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision to honor Hunka. I wish to make clear that no one, including fellow parliamentarians and the Ukraine delegation, was aware of my intention or of my remarks before I delivered them. I particularly want to extend my deepest apologies to the Jewish communities in Canada and around the world. Yeah. We live in a strange time, you know. I have before invoked, you know, people who have given entire comedy routines into, like, I didn't think it'd be a spicy take to say this, but fuck the Nazis. I hate Nazis. Nazis bad. That kind of shit. But apparently in today's day and age, you do occasionally have to say it and just let people be like aware of like how, you know, fuck Nazis. Like you've seen it in video game developers, for example, when the new Wolfenstein was coming out and they were interviewing some of the developers and they're like, so why did you make such gratuitous violence where you were just murdering and slaughtering Nazis? And they would have to answer, because like killing Nazis is cool. That's what we wanted to put in our video game. What? Like, Nazis are the bad guys. Like, oh, sorry, is this now becoming a controversial take? Are we now kind of shifting in some ways, the Overton window moving in that direction?
Technology, which you see on the screen there, enough. It is unprecedented for a speaker's actions to trigger the kind of condemnation we were hearing yesterday. Dominic Arel, who is a historian from the University of Ottawa, he was explaining why honoring a veteran like this should or could have raised red flags. Take a listen.
By association, again, with all the crime.
Keep in mind, Zelensky is fighting a war, so his priorities are second. No. Zelensky is owed zero blame for this. This is 100% the Liberal Party and the Speaker of the House of Canada's fault, without question. And honestly, if they are just like such stalwart supporters of Zelensky in all his endeavors, then you fucked up bad here. Bad. You have given Zelensky's enemies so much ammunition. Have you seen the stories that are running in fucking Russian news on this shit right now? Zelensky honors fucking Nazi, blah, blah, blah. We told you they were in direct collaboration with the Nazis, all this kind of shit.
Committed by the SS. And of course, the SS were the organization that committed or carried out.
The speaker isn't a politician. Yeah, because again, this is one of those situations where now we're in a very tenuous political situation in Canada. As you can probably tell, the Conservative Party, who is aligning themselves very dangerously with a lot of fucking culture war, anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ shit right now. You saw the Million March in Canada that just happened. Things are bad. And so the alternative right now to the Liberals is Pierre and the fucking Conservative movement that are affixing themselves directly to the culture wars of Trump and the United States. It is not a good scene. So what happens here? Possible outcomes. Christina Phelan stepping down. She owes a lot of blame here. Her hands are not clean, and she has fucked up numerous times, including holding up symbolism and signs that are actually directly related to sometimes neo-Nazi movements, and then denying them or having those pictures erased, and then it's just like a little whoopsie kind of shit. And you're just like, no, that's you have to acknowledge that you are like this. Yes, is a very complicated situation, and yes, there's a lot of history here, and yes, there was a problem with Canada as well as a lot of other countries. By the way, Operation Paperclip, Google it. A lot of other countries welcoming in and or taking in war criminals from World War II in order to either utilize their information technology or other benefits they may can, or making safe havens for war criminals or defectors and stuff like that. Hi, Argentina. Like there's obviously a lot of countries have played their part in that, and that was actually such a significant problem in Canada that we actually had to have an entire investigation into it, into how deep that problem goes. And that problem obviously has been a history and story, one of which was talked about a lot prior to the invasion of Ukraine, including myself. I'm fully putting myself out there as someone who's consistently been talking about this prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that yes, we do have a problem of kind of doing revisionist history where we might honor, factions that fought directly either in tandem with and or supported and or directly in Nazi armies during World War II, and have since they've tried to rebrand themselves as being, Ukrainian liberators or stuff like that. It is obviously a very difficult and complicated situation to talk about. And once there was the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Putin, obviously myself included, a lot of us started to, and as we should, focus on why that is a bad thing, because they are currently in the middle of a war. I am sitting here comfortably from a fucking apartment in Vancouver, broadcasting on the internet for your entertainment. I am very cozy and comfortable. So who the fuck am I, some fucking jabroni, to sit here and be like, well, the whole thing is complicated. Yeah, it is complicated for sure. But when it comes down to it, one side currently is having their homeland invaded. They are having war crimes committed against them. They're having their children taken from them. They're having fucking mass graves. All that shit is happening to Ukraine right now because of the war criminals under Putin's regime. That is the reality. So that's why, yes, I will hyper focus on, until this war ends, that is a bad thing and they need to stop, and that illegal invasion needs to end for sure. In pursuant of that, Zelensky is obviously traveling to a bunch of countries. Canada's not the only one that he's doing this to go speak on the behalf of the war effort and to talk about a bunch of things. And yes, of course, there were aspects of Zelensky's speech that absolutely disgusted me when he talks about the fundamental principles of how Canada is just honest and free. And if you have zero understanding of the very, very complicated and genocidal history of Canada and its relation to Indigenous peoples, you would find that the entire statement to be gross, as I did, right? That not being said, this is such a fuck up for you to have done this, because boy, oh boy, does it look fucking really, really bad. Like, again, we're going to get a little bit into the history of this individual, but like, let's talk a little bit about the Waffen SS. The Waffen SS grew 3 regiments over 38 divisions during World War II and served alongside German army. I don't know how to pronounce the order police and the other security units. Originally was under the control of the SS SS Divisional Office Command beneath the head of the SS. Initially in keeping with the racial policy of Nazi Germany, membership was only open to people of German origin. The rules were partially relaxed in 1940 after Operation Barbarossa invasion of the Soviet Union. In 1941, Nazi propaganda claimed that there was a European crusade against Bolshevism, and subsequently units consisting largely or solely of foreign volunteers and conscripts were also raised. The Waffen SS units were made up of men mainly from amongst national Nazi-occupied Europe. Despite relaxation of the rules, the Waffen SS was still based on racist ideology of Nazism, with ethnic Poles who were reviewed as subhuman were specifically barred from the formation. The Waffen-SS, involved in numerous atrocities during its involvement in the Holocaust and numerous war crimes against the civilian population, was declared the criminal organization by the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg in 1946. Therefore, Waffen-SS members, with the exception of conscripts, who comprised about 1/3 of the membership, were denied many of the rights afforded to military veterans. This individual was not a conscript. He volunteered to be part of the Waffen-SS.
Good evening. A high-profile federal politician is trying to make amends tonight after several advocacy groups demanded his apology. House Speaker Anthony Rota praised a Ukrainian veteran in Parliament who served in a Nazi unit during the Second World War. It comes on the same day Canada's Jewish population is marking Yom Kippur, considered the holiest day of the year. CTV's Kevin Gallagher reports.
There were multiple standing ovations to celebrate Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Parliament Friday. But one applause after House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota introduced a Ukrainian Second World War veteran from his riding is being condemned.
And continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
The man being honored is Yaroslav Hunka, now identified
he's not hiding, he's
as a
right here.
veteran of a Nazi SS division.
He openly stated that he joined this division voluntarily in 1943.
Ivan Kachinovsky is a Ukrainian war history expert. He was tipped off that Hunka served in the 1st Ukrainian Division, also known as the 14th Waffen Grenadier SS Division, commanded by the Nazis. The University of Ottawa professor even found these photos of Hunka serving in his volunteer unit on a website dedicated to the SS Galicia veterans.
That members of this division were involved in massacres,
so bad.
mass murder of Jews, of Poles and Ukrainians.
The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs was deeply troubled and disturbed by the standing ovation, and the CEO of B'nai B'rith says it is beyond outrageous that Parliament has honored a former member of a Nazi unit this way. Hunka, seen at this Ukrainian rally.
Yeah, I don't know why they blurred the faces.
Is from Rota's riding. The speaker says it was his decision alone to invite the SS veteran. Today, issuing his deep.
So he's apologizing, but he's not stepping down. So he's taking sole blame for the entire thing. It's in like, yeah, I was the one who invited him. It was my bad. My bad. Shouldn't have done that. Like, if you want to see his official statement, I think I have it here. On September 22nd, the House of Commons, I recognized an individual in the gallery. I regret my decision to do so and accept full responsibility for my actions. Very, very concise. There's a larger statement here, which you've seen on the screen. He's now apologizing publicly for it.
I just want to make it clear that it was my decision, and my decision alone. This was a constituent who wanted to see wanted to be here, and I recognized him. It was my decision, and I apologize profusely. I cannot.
Oh yeah, being a volunteer, like all the defense that was done, like thing after thing after thing after thing to try and like downplay this. I saw people initially coming out like, oh well, yes, okay, fine. He may have served in alliance with the Nazi army, but there was a lot of conscripts. People didn't have a choice in many cases. It's like, not in this one. He chose. He decided he wanted to join the SS Waffen division, so that one doesn't really fly. Someone else was like, well, I don't think he's directly been implicated in any war crimes. I was like, that shouldn't be the bar. We shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't be honoring SS soldiers of any capacity in any reason for anything ever. What is this, drill? Are we doing drill? Are we all doing collectively drill? You do not have to hand it to the SS, like ever.
I cannot tell you how regretful it is. And it may not be good enough for some of you, and for that I apologize.
How regretful. Like, again, you have fucked things up on such a big scale now. That's like the shittiest thing about this. Like, honestly, if you're someone who supports Zelensky like myself, that fucking, wow. Look at the freeze frame that they use on the National. Oh my god. That thumbnail's with purpose. 100% that thumbnail's with purpose. You did that. That is intentional.
Standing
oh Lord!
For a Ukrainian veteran of the Second World War
who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Invited by House Speaker Anthony Rota to witness Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Parliament, Yaroslav Hunka is one of his constituents.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
That was the jubilant scene Friday. Now, New
Are you gonna withdraw any of that publicly? Are you gonna say, like, so when I said he's a war hero and a Canadian hero, I deeply regret stating that, because no, he's not. He could very well be a war criminal, most likely. I mean, if you're volunteering to be in that division, yeah, you're like, well, I want to choose to fight on the behalf of the Nazis.
details have emerged about that war service MPs applauded. Hunka served in the 1st Galician Division, a voluntary unit commanded by the Nazis.
The unit is complicit in the Holocaust.
This Jewish human rights campaigner says there's no defending former soldiers like Hunka.
You swore allegiance to Hitler, and you were involved with the massacre of civilians. So it doesn't matter if you try and claim that you were defending against communism, you were still involved with.
Like, you can't really do well, I was one of the good SS soldiers. Yeah, there was a lot of us back then. You know, there was obviously some bad ones who were complicit in the Holocaust and shit, but there's obviously, you know, there's a few that, like, maybe didn't do as bad of stuff.
The Nazi war machine.
The division's history is murky. Its volunteers united by a desire to take on the Soviet Union, says this academic.
For them, the ultimate evil was Moscow occupation.
Rhoda has now apologized and says he regrets ever inviting him. I recognize an individual in the gallery. I have subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision to do so, he says in a statement. I accept.
Now, here's where things got even sillier. So, Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP party in Canada, released a statement. One of the first statements I saw any major political party head lead. And this is a statement that has now been put out by an actual politician of a leading political party in Canada. I share the concerns about the individual honored with the standing ovation in the House of Commons on Friday. He was not a guest of the NDP, and we were not aware of his background or association with the Nazi regime in World War II. Actual statement put out by a politician in 2023 in Canada. This event has caused harm to the Jewish community, and for that I am sorry. New Democrats will be raising our concerns about how this was allowed to happen with the government directly. We must all stand together against this rising tide of anti-Semitism. Ratioed. Fucking ratioed. It says a lot about society. It does, you know. It got worse. Our Prime Minister in Zelensky had a meeting with the Nazi. Hunka's, I believe, daughter said was proud to be in the reception hall for Trudeau and Zelensky to meet with him personally. Thanks for posting that after the fact, because great. No, even worse. Even worse, they had a personal one-on-one with the SS soldier. Great stuff. This is at the same time, by the way, when the Conservative Party of Canada is now using this as the ultimate political tool. They're all coming out and saying that, wow, the Liberal Party has directly associated themselves with Nazis while they're doing shit like this, such as doing ad campaigns. PC official, this is a real ad campaign saying that we're not going to be searching a landfill for a whole bunch of Indigenous women who were murdered by a Nazi serial killer in Canada. Fuck that noise. So this is basically, you're seeing on one side, the Conservative Party of Canada just doing outright, hey, we're going to align with modern day fascism. And on the other end, how do you really defend against this and provide the counter to this being, of course, liberalism and the Liberal Party, where the Liberal Party now is basically like, yeah, we did invite an SS soldier and gave him a standing ovation. It all looks bad, right? We all fucked up in one way or another.
Best apologies to Jewish communities in Canada and around the world. Vladimir Putin has falsely defended his invasion of Ukraine as a way to denazify the country. Some fear this scandal will spark more disinformation. Will this fuel more Russian propaganda?
Of course.
Yes, I think in Russia,
Yes. What a gift! What a gift!
Zelensky, even Canadian government supporting Nazis again in Ukraine, but this is not based on reality.
Opposition leaders question where the vetting process
what a gift to
went wrong.
Russia.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre blamed Justin Trudeau, whose personal protocol office is responsible for arranging and vetting all.
And, like, you know, as a fucking leftist, this puts me in a very fucking shitty position to have to be like, Pierre, you directly associate with the modern fascist movement in Canada all the time. He was shaking hands with the leader of Diagolon. He didn't even call out the leader of Diagolon as being a fucking pro-fascist movement until the leader of Diagolon and Content Warning started making jokes about raping his wife. And at which point, yeah, then Pierre came out and was like, Diagolon is an extremist movement, and we absolutely do not support or endorse them in any way, shape, or form. And it's like, well, you actually had no problem with them until the fact that, wow, look, Nazis are behaving like Nazis. They're doing fascist shit. He's making jokes about raping your wife. That's horrifying and disgusting, and no one should do that. But what a surprise that the leader of Diagolon would do something like that. Maybe you should have thought of that before you were directly associated with him, or all of these far-right factions. Also, you refuse to fucking condemn all of this fucking far-right anti-LGBTQ plus movements across Canada. You know what happened after those anti-LGBTQ plus movements got fucking dwarfed by love, you know, across the country, and it was a huge fucking abject failure for a lot of them? Well, Pierre came out and said Justin Trudeau is trying to divide the nation, because Justin Trudeau, yes, put out a very good statement that was like, we condemn any homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, any anti-LGBTQ plus or two-spirit fucking bigotry. We condemn it. That was the statement. A very, I thought, uncontroversial statement, which I absolutely, of course, support. And then he said that statement was trying to divide the country. It's only trying to divide the country if you feel somehow that calling out hate is divisive. If you think calling out hatred is divisive, then yeah, you may feel like they're dividing the country. Of course, this dude is fucking consistently aligning himself with modern day fascistic movements, but now wants to fucking start doing the whole soapbox shit, where it's like, oh, well, those liberals, they shouldn't have invited the Nazi. I'll say that much. That's controversial, right?
Guests and programming for state affairs of this kind, while NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says his party will be raising our concerns about how this was allowed to happen with the government directly. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office says this speaker is independent and did not give notice of Hunka's recognition to them or the Ukrainian delegation. CTV News has reached out to Hunka's family, Heather, and has yet to receive a response.
So yeah, massive fuck up. Shame on all of you. You know, in the midst of all the controversies that are going right now, you know, there was an assassination of a Sikh leader in Canada, you know, which also prompted Pierre to drop the N-word, by the way, by mispronouncing the Sikh leader's name in Parliament, Nijar, but he did not pronounce it there. He used the hard R for some reason. Clearly he's got that word on the brain. But yeah, in the midst of all these controversies, boom, now it's global news. I fucking, you know, turn on Al Jazeera to see, oh, Canada's on the front headlines. What's this for? Oh, it's because we honored an SS officer. All of us did. Parliament did, collectively. All political parties did. Standing ovation. Oh, well, yeah. That's bad. That's, yeah, that's bad, embarrassing, and really shameful.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
I have to at least smirk a little bit at how ridiculous, this is. You don't even you don't have to be a history buff to understand. If he fought against the Russians in World War II, against the Soviets in World War II, who is he fighting with? He was fighting with the Nazis. So I'm going to get a little more into the history here, and also the importance, by the way, of the Soviet Union in winning World War II, which is one of these things that many of us in the West are not taught and have to learn ourselves, as I did, well into my 20s. I had no idea how important the Soviets were to winning World War II until I was, you know, deep in my 20s.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't part of the public education system in Canada. In Canada, you know what we learned? We learned that Canada actually played one of the largest roles of any country in defeating the Nazis in World War II. You didn't know it, but like Canada, we were the heroes. Yeah, so I hope you didn't know a lot about this before, but Canada invented the bouncing bomb, which was integral in stopping a lot of, you know, the theater of war that was taking place in oceans. So that was good. Canada did a great job, and yeah, we've never once, I think, in Canadian public school history started learning about the cost to the USSR in the tens of millions of people, like literally just fucking fodder, absolute fodder. No one lost more human lives than the Russians did in World War II.
Just because of the level of propaganda that we are taught growing up. And I think this goes to how this wasn't caught. How you could have the House Speaker here introducing him as someone who fought the Russians as a war hero. It's so completely absurd. Like, the extent of the thinking here, I'm going to get to his apology because it is his fault. So he clearly didn't know. I mean, look, people are going to say, oh, he did.
Yeah, sorry, I should say the Soviet states, not the Russians.
I don't
they weren't Russians back then.
He had no idea. This is a guy from his riding. He's a, you know, an elderly individual. He's going to, you know, applause here. Like, it's the idea here is, oh, here's this guy who, you know, just like now, Here's a guy who's Ukrainian. He fought against the Russians, just like now you have the Ukrainians fighting against the Russians. As if
it recontextualizes the whole thing as like the modern theater of war versus like the history of World War II, in order to kind of just gloss over the fact that he was actually a volunteer in the SS.
They're similar fights, as if it's a similar thing. Like, that is the extent.
Yeah, massive Canadian L. One of the biggest Canadian L's, probably. I would say if any country has just decidedly collectively embarrassed themselves publicly for the world stage and given the greatest of gifts that fucking Putin could ever imagine from one of these encounters, it was Canada. Good job, Canada. Once again, just embarrassing yourself on the world stage. And yeah, it is unfortunate to Zelensky now to be in these press ops, to be in these photos. It's embarrassing for the Liberal Party to have done this and to be in these press ops and be in these photos. And for every fucking country that is reporting on this to have to be like, what the fuck? Are you serious, Canada? How the fuck did you do this? How did you, how did this, is there no checks and balances? Do y'all not have the internet in Canada? Were you not able to use Google even one time? Because the internet found out about this way faster than the media reported on it. It was like boom, 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 all these things popping up, the photos popping up all over the place, the actual pictures of him, and just absolute and complete disaster. Yeah.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Lamidia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.